Do you desire to become a better version of yourself? My Couch, Your Life was created to assist you in becoming the best version of you and to encourage you to live your best life. I'm your host, Dr. Patricia Busby-Robinson. You can call me Dr. P. I'm a licensed professional counselor who will bring a unique view regarding several topics that will be discussed on this show. A new episode will be available on Mondays at 5 a.m. bi-weekly. If you desire to learn more about the behavioral aspect of things and to have an occasional laugh or two, please subscribe and tune in. Now, even though I am a licensed professional counselor that's going to bring a unique view, I would fully disclose to you that this is not to take a place of a counselor. And if you do need counseling, please seek a licensed professional counselor in your area. Tune in. Let's grow together. Let's plant the seeds necessary for us to grow, but not just planting the seeds. We're going to water them with great knowledge and have fun while doing it. I hope to see you there. On this episode of My Couch, Your Life, we will be discussing back to school. It's an exciting time, yet a stressful time. So stay tuned for updates and for parents to find out things and learn new things that they can do, or maybe fine tune the things that you're already doing to get prepared for this exciting school year. Stay tuned. Welcome to My Couch, Your Life. I'm your host, Dr. P. Today we will be discussing back to school tips for this school term, which is 23-24 school year 2023-2024. Well, I know we have parents out there and some bonus parents maybe, or even grandparents that is getting kids ready for school. And I'm going to be sharing with you guys today some things that we can do to help with anxiety and just getting our kids prepared. We're about a week or 2 weeks off. Some people a couple of days off from kids returning back to school. So it can be an exciting time, but stressful time at the same time. So I want to talk about some ways that we can kind of ease back into that, give you some tips for kids and for us as parents. One of those things is getting our kids ready for back to school is the bedtime, right? Early to bed, early to rise. So we kind of got to get them back into steps of how to get into that routine of school. A couple of weeks or maybe a couple of days, and we start by getting them into the habit of going to bed earlier. Gently winding down activities such as bath time and reading before bed can help them relax as well. It's recommended that we kind of gradually do that, probably in like 15-minute increments. Just slowly ease them back into that, because don't nobody want a drastic change to their schedule, right? We don't even want that. So just waking them up all of a sudden and then telling them to go to bed just all of a sudden, it kind of would put a little stress on the routine, and we want to make this as stressless as possible. Not stressful, but as stressless as possible. So kind of doing 15-minute increments with that. Reestablishing a routine, right? And that means, what was the routine like when school was starting, when they were in school? So since they're starting back to school, let's start introducing that routine back, right? What was the routine when they was coming into home from school? What did that look like? Start rehearsing that. Start talking to them about that. In the evening, this could include homework, playtime, brushing their teeth, having a bath, or reading before bed. And let's also encourage some independence with them. If children are older, and I guess if they're dressing themselves, you kind of start doing this too. Organizing their school supplies, organizing their clothing and stuff like that. You can kind of like set a routine where they can start getting their backpack ready for the next day. Start that the day before, maybe before they go to bed, or get into bath on time. Get them to get their stuff together for starting their day the next day, by packing their backpacks and stuff like that. So you won't have to do that early in the morning. Kind of getting them to ease back into it. If they're old enough to do chores and stuff like that, and everything, which you should be kind of implementing that in if they can dress themselves, but help them to help them or get their assistance when it's preparing for back to school, such as choosing and organizing their supplies, new scope, clothing and stuff like that. That kind of would get them more excited about going back to school and kind of ease their jitters, right? Talk about safety. If they're not riding a bus but they're walking to school, tell them things to look for. Well, now look before you crossing the street. Take the same routine, every day if they're walking, and familiarize themselves with the crosswalks and stuff like that. Don't talk to strangers, all that good stuff. Kind of establish healthy habits. If they fixing their lunches and stuff like that, they can start doing that, as I said, the night before. Or if you're a parent, meal prep. Let's do it for the week, right? And then if we can do it for the week, include them in that on what they can have and help them in meal prepping, so they can also be included in their healthy eating habits. And this is a big one, which I feel like should be implemented even if it wasn't for school, but limit that screen time. And that screen time is that phone, right? Television time, stuff like that. Let's reestablish that screen time limit. If you haven't already, let's start implementing that now. And if you want to include the whole family in that, hey, you can say let's let the whole family unplug in the evening before bedtime. You can choose a spot in your home where everybody can charge their devices overnight, and get your alarm clock to wake up, because sometimes we use this cell phone for everything. It's our alarm clock. It's everything. So we can kind of implement alarm clocks, but put that in the rooms and let that wake you up in the morning instead of cell phones, okay? Talking about first week jitters with your children. Because being nervous, let them know that that's a natural thing, even for teachers. So you can let them express their fears. You can also offer your first time jitters when you were a child. Teach them to breathe deeply and slowly to calm their nerves. Discuss different scenarios that they could worry about. That helps as well. For example, if they're worried about who to sit with or talk to on the first day, help them make a plan, a strategy, or rehearse some things. You can implement some role playing at this time as well to kind of get them into going back to school. Get the mindset set on learning, right? You can have something like Math Mondays, Literacy Wednesday, Science Tuesdays, just different things. You can kind of make it a game night for your kids to kind of implement those type of things as well. Change that meal time. I talked about meal prepping for them for the week for school, but change that meal time, because usually in the summer they run into their refrigerator all the time, but at school they can't do that. And if they're accustomed to getting a snack whenever they feel like it, when they're hungry or get a twinge of hunger, it's going to be difficult for them to transition to that school schedule. So try to get them on a schedule of when it's snack time, and so they can kind of start eating on a schedule that's similar to when they go back to school, so they won't just be having those hunger pains during activity time, not activity time, but during learning time at school. Because they won't be able to focus on the schoolwork, won't be able to focus on what the teacher's saying if they're having hunger pains, okay? Talk kids through different school situations. Role play those situations that I shared before. You can read about different ideas and situations to role play with your kids with. That helps release anxiety as well. Things like, these are just some ideas, you guys. For example, if your child want to read a book but someone else got it first and now it's reading it, what can they do, right? Or if they see another kid get pushed by someone on the playground, how can they handle that? If they have to go to the bathroom but the teacher is talking in class, what can they do with that? If they open a backpack and realize they left their homework or their workbook at home, what can they do when it comes to that? Preparation is key. So just kind of like getting them in different scenarios, playing those role plays and talking about them with different situations is great. And allow them, this is a big one for us, we need, as parents, need to allow them to come up with a solution and put our input in it when we feel necessary. And don't even just tell them what to do, but just kind of give your input in it, but allow them to come up with their own. That's creating problem solving skills as well, and conflict resolution. So it's all good stuff that they will have to have when they become adults. And also, it will make them feel more secure and confident and excited to learn. So it's all good stuff that we'll be doing, with them. If they're a teen, and those teens, you guys, is something serious. But you get more pushback when they're a teen, right? Sometimes it starts even earlier than that. But you have to implement some quiet time at night. And right now is whatever they want to do. But during the school time, it could be part of their homework time. But establish that early on. And what they do in their quiet time is not important as long as the electronics are not used. But kind of getting that implemented early on, even in teens. Because teenagers tend to have a little more freedom. And it's natural progress for them to just want to do what they want to do, right? Like going socializing after dinner. But they got to learn they got to stay at home on a weeknight. So it's just about what you choose and how you want to implement that. Rehearsal and repetition prepares children for their responsibilities. So kind of like give them I want to say free reign, but allow them to kind of still be teenagers, but implement the rules and push that they follow the rules. The rules are there for a reason. So make sure you know that they're staying on schedule and staying on task with the rules. Consider how you want to do grades, right? When your kids make good grades, you can talk about that now. What is your reward system for grades now? You can talk about that. For instance, if they get all A's and B's, you would reward them with cash. If they don't have to get punished. They just don't get the money. So that kind of teaches them what's expected. And if it doesn't happen, then this is what don't happen. You don't get the money, right? So it kind of pushes them and have your children earn the right to study on their own. For instance, if they didn't get all A's, for instance, you said, well, when you get all A's and above, you can go to your room and do your homework. But as long as you have C's and B's, you will not study in your room. More than one C, you down here with me studying, right? So give you a little supervision. But if I can believe and trust that you can do this and you're gonna do it, then you can go do it in your room. So you kind of got to figure out and talk and discuss with them on what you're expecting regarding grades and rewarding what that looks like. So you do what's best for your home, but already going into the year, they would know what's expected of them. And if they don't do it, they will know what's expected, what's going to happen, right? Because it's consequences to everything, which is let natural consequences do the punishing this year, right? You have to, by the time, because failure is a part of life, okay? Let me say that. And by the time kids hit their teenage years, they've experienced failure. They should have, right? So they know what it's like. They know what it feels like. They have an understanding of it. And you can allow the natural consequences to do the punishing. But you got to allow the children to do it. You got to allow the children to fail. And I think that's something that we parents struggle with, allowing our children to make the mistakes that's needed for their growth. So this means that you should let them fail this year in school, let them fail that subject. If that still doesn't motivate them, or if it adds to their lack of motivation, that's when you need to seek professional help. Okay, because we have to find out what's going on. The child may need an IEP. The child may need some tutoring. There's maybe something else going on that we have to look at regarding the natural consequences during the punishment. I had to really look at that when it said let the natural consequences do the punishment. And what I read on it was really good, because sometimes we do have to let the children fall. We can't pick them up all the time, but we also have to understand that their failures does not make us bad parents, and it doesn't make them inadequate. Let me say that again. Their failures does not make us bad parents, and it doesn't make them inadequate to be successful in school or successful in life. So we do have to allow our children to to fail in some things, and that's okay. And I know by watching our children fail sometimes make us feel helpless, angry, even sad. But we have to also allow them to learn the lessons from it, right? Because we see the danger in it. We see this make me feel this way. I don't want them to do that. But we never see the opportunity in it. We don't see the lessons that could be learned from it, right? So we have to think about that, because it also, by allowing them to fail in things, it helps them to build a tolerance for discomfort, which is an emotional callus, if you will. Building this tolerance for discomfort is important, because it's a big part of life. Because you may fail at this, or well, I hate to even call it failing, because I think it's just growing as well. But we do fall, like the church, we fall down, but we get up, right? So that's basically what it is. Life is naturally full of failures, because even the most successful people fail sometimes, right? So we have to kind of create a tolerance for that, because if it's and not try to rescue our children all the times for that, because then they'll create a false sense of entitlement, which is, the world is full of that false sense of entitlement, which we don't want that to happen with our children. But we do have to see what's going on, and if we find out that the child, because some children will lie. And I don't want us as parents running up there every time the children say something now, because some children will lie. But if you find out if your child is lying or being dishonest about doing homework or anything like that, you need to ask yourself, what else is the child being dishonest about, right? So that's a place where natural consequences due to punishment. If he's supposed to be studying out school, and he's failing, what is he doing out school? That raises other questions that we need to be asking, right? Because if he's sneaking in one area, maybe he's sneaking in other areas. So we need to investigate and open our eyes to the possibility that something else is going on. Solve the problem by addressing the problem. Okay? Because like I said, we as parents got to understand that if our child fails, we have not failed too, and it doesn't make us bad parents. Now there's some things you have to do as a parent, then you make the adjustments. And then if there's some stuff that, if you're doing what you're supposed to as a parent, you got to ask the child, what more can my child do? Right? Instead of saying, what more can I do? What am I not doing as a parent? Ask, what is my child not doing as a student? So you got to revamp how you're looking at it and rethink how you're thinking about it. And feeling discomfort is okay. Okay? When we talk about failure and what your child can learn from it, we're really talking about the benefits of allowing your child to feel discomfort. Okay? And discomfort, we're meaning worry, fear, disappointment, and the experiencing of having consequences to your actions. That's it. And we as parents, we really don't want our children to feel uncomfortable about anything. So that's why we go in there, go attack the teacher, or go fight with other parents, or all this stuff. But what are we teaching our children when we do that? What are we teaching our children? Focus the conversation on your child. What part did you play? Ask the child that. What part did you play in this? We want to know. Because you want the child to learn what part they played in the failure, because after all, he can only change his part. The lessons begin by identifying his part. If the child said, I don't know what part I played, you can respond by saying, okay, well, let's think about it. Where did you get off track? Where did things go wrong for you? And if the child responds, well, it seems to me, and if that child don't have anything to say, if they don't know, you can say, well, it seems to me you got off track when you didn't have your homework ready, when the teacher called on you. That part you played was not being prepared. And the solution to that is being prepared. Right. So when the child, most likely, if he got called on in the class and he didn't have his work, didn't know what it was that was going on, that means he was embarrassed. That's a consequence, right, to not having your homework done. So in order for you not to feel that way again, you're going to do what? Have your homework done. But we as a parent ain't going to do it for you. We're not going to go up there and attack the teacher rather, as parents. So we're going to put the blame where it lies, on the child, the person that's supposed to be doing the homework. Okay? We can ask them, what are you going to do differently next time? Right? What are you going to do different next time when you have your homework to do? What are you going to do differently the next time your teacher calls on you so you won't get embarrassed? We're going to ask the right questions, right? And the third thing we're going to ask is, what did you learn from this? Because we do want him to learn, him or her to learn. We want them to, it's lesson in everything. Right? So what did you learn from being embarrassed when the teacher called on you? What did you learn from not passing a test? So we want them to, figure that out so they won't feel it anymore. Back at putting the power into their hands. We're not going to do it for them because we're going to feel uncomfortable at times. Even children, as adults, you grow up to be uncomfortable sometimes. And if you got a teacher that don't know, because I know you have competent teachers, you have teachers that may not be competent, but yet and still, you may also become an adult and have a boss or a supervisor that is the same way. But if we would have allowed you to learn the lesson as a student in high school, you'll know how to maneuver through that one as an adult, right? So we're preparing the children to become adults. So you can even look at it that way, right? What to say to kids who didn't do well in school last year. My thing would be, it's a new school year, right? And we hope that they do well. We're claiming that all of them going to have a successful year. But if they didn't do well last year, I would have advised that you spoke to them about that last year when school came out. But when school starts back, you can say, hey, we didn't have a good year last year. What are we going to do better this year, right? How are we going to ensure that we have a better outcome? How are you going to stay on top of your grades? And if the problem was behavior, then you can ask them, what will you do differently to get along better with your classmates or your teachers? Let's pick one thing you can do right now from day one that will help you move in that direction, right? And when they stumble and fall, I think our goal is to always ask what they're going to do differently and what they've learned. I always say, what we're going to do, what you going to do, ask what you learned. Those are important things, okay? Because these questions talk about the future and get the child to think about what they'll do to change the outcome, okay? Now, for instance, if they took a test and failed the test, something like that, you can look at it this way. The test was over and he failed, and the child failed it. That is a natural consequence. There's no need for me to beat him over the head with that fact, right? We just need to say, okay, what we're going to do different? What did you learn from this? How can we go about it differently? Sometimes your child will choose to do their homework in the kitchen table when someone is there to make sure that they do it. Sometimes they'll choose to study with a friend, but you always want concrete answers to what your child is going to do differently whenever they have a hard time or slip up. If they said they don't know, then that's you can come up with the consequences. Like you can say, I want to see your homework every day until you pass the next test. Right? Now, the next time that happened, guess what? They know the script. And when you ask them what it is they want to do, they're going to be telling you. They're going to tell you. Okay? So the goal is not to be a perfect parent. The goal is not to avoid being a bad parent, but the goal is to be an effective parent, right? And that's achievable with all the right techniques, So I think that we can get prepared for the school year. For us new school year parents, first time kids going to school, I know there's a lot of anxiety around that. Like, oh, my baby's going to school. What am I going to do? I know I've been there before. But guess what? They got to do it. Go through that anxiety period. If you have family night or anything like that, go to the family night. Meet your kid's teacher. If your child, if it's before school start, go there, meet the teachers. Allow your children to meet the teachers. If they got a playground, it's a good thing to take the child up there to the school. Let them play on a playground, kind of get acclimated to the school. But it's gonna be tough. When they first going into pre-K or anything like that, first time away from home or anything like that, we're going to be stressful for it. If it's first time going into college, stressful for us as parents. It's first time they've been away from home. So it's all emotions that we all feel as parents and as students. Some be excited about going to the college Some be excited about going to school. Whatever they are, we have to celebrate that, and we also have to celebrate what we are. So that's my final thing here. Celebrate the start of a new school year. If you celebrate the first day of school, your kids will see back to school as a transition they can really enjoy. Try a back to school party the day before school starts, complete with a cake, balloons, and educational gifts. And don't forget, take pictures on the front step the first day of school in their outfits. And I'm declaring and decreeing that this is going to be a great school year for us parents. So let's celebrate, let's embrace it. It's exciting but stressful, but we shall get through it. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, I'm asking you to subscribe today and to follow us on all social media platforms for show updates and upcoming guests. This is Dr. P from My Couch Your Life podcast. I want to take this time to thank you guys for listening, for tuning in, and I hope your morning starts off great. Okay, I would like you guys to subscribe to the podcast. I would like you guys to follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook. If you got feedback, if there are topics that you would like to hear, want to discuss, please let us know. Okay, this podcast was truly created for people just like you and me. And I want you to remember, the most important relationship you can have is the one you have with yourself. And the most important person that you will ever love is you. I look forward to hearing from you guys.